outfitted one out on the street so that we could save money. And that would be the chief's car.
Yes. Yes.
Two more, second Avenue. Now, you're saying that you were to double the taxes, hypothetically, it would work at doubling the real estate taxes. And now we're also talking about these other developments coming in. Right? Well, if you bring in these other developments and you allow the area to grow that rapidly, you're forgetting one of the bigger expenses to each and every property owner here is school tax. Right? We just got over a major overhaul of our school system. Now we're entertaining that again. With more growth in that area. Right? How many more taxes are we going to have to supply here? Looking at increasing some kind of tax, but then bringing in more residents. Right? School taxes are going to go up. So it seems like it's a shift here. That's burden.
Yeah, this is not an easy conversation. I'm not suggesting there's an easy solution. We're just laying out what the facts are, and we have to figure out what to do.
George.
George Rouse, good morning, everybody. I have a question, maybe somebody out there can answer. Do we supply any police or fire services to Schwenksville Borough?
Fire services, we took their fire company over. Okay?
Okay. Are we getting reimbursed for any of that?
Yes. Everybody come along with it.
So
Okay?
we're not supplying any kind of police activity?
No police, just fire.
All right.
If-
Is that accounted for in our budget?
Pardon me?
Is that accounted for in this new budget?
The
The
fire department has that cut out of it, and that's it. They've been fine. I'm telling you right now. The fire company's set with what they got. They're in good shape.
So I'm going to go back to a previous conversation somebody had about the EDUs. So right now there's a plan for Melbourne Hill that's approved, right, for 46 houses. So if you were to collect the EDUs from that,
You're right.
from that right there,
Add it
up front, $340,000+ would correct a lot of this stuff.
There you go. So
By itself.
as long as you hold these projects up that we're already,
Can I finish?
yeah, go ahead.
That's without changing the plan. That's without reducing the lot size or giving a bunch of concessions back, because that's what he's asking for, not only here, but in neighboring townships as well. Okay, so there's a pattern for this particular person, okay? So I'm suggesting as a township, as zoning hearing, whoever is here, we're not gonna bend and give concessions to this guy just because he wants them. You know, he's got approved plans, right? He can build tomorrow if he wanted, right? Am I correct? Am I correct?
Good without the
He
silver.
could. Well, I mean, that's on him though, right? He's got to figure it out now. Right? But if you collect his EDUs, there's over $340,000. Takes care of all that. That's one development, and there's more coming, right? 2, 3, 4 more down the road. They're lining up.
I can't say.
Yeah, it's hard to predict, because if you look at Arcadia Station, we thought they'd all be built by now, and they've been taking their time. So it's very hard to predict how quickly the houses will be built.
Well, if you can charge the EDUs up front, when you have approval given to them, they collect that money up front, then you have to utilize.
That's correct, and that's only going to help the sewage budget. That won't help the operating fund.
That'll help something.
That's correct.
When Arcadia Station started, they were fighting a lot of weather, so that delayed that project a lot. Bill?
Bill McGovern, 107 Memorial. In the existing agreements, and I believe they're operating all the existing agreements for Melbourne Hill and so forth, there was $1,000 a house for emergency services.
That's the one we were discussing, that, did you know anything about that? Because I think that I understood that there was no $1,000 in that per house.
As I recall, there were, but, you know.
That's why we wanted to ask you if there was.
Yeah. There should be a written agreement, maybe Lorraine Cuddy could put her hands on something like that. She's pretty good with that stuff. But the $1,000 a house for whatever you get over in Elmore Hills will be, whether it's going to be 46 or 60 or in between, will be $1,000 a house.
To the emergency services.
Emergency services.
Correct.
And that's where you have to increase in your budget.
Well, can that be used for police, or is that just for fire and ambulance?
Anything, emergency services.
Anything?
Yeah, it's emergency service, pretty broad.
Okay.
Now realizing that's only a one-time thing, but as we're talking between the two developments, between Sahaki and Goldberg, you know, there's over 100, and with Gentera, with another 31 coming in, you know, there's like 131,000 that could go towards that police portion.
Yeah, but just keep in mind, depending on development, to fix your budget is like a giant Ponzi scheme. You keep building, you're getting the money, you keep building, you get the money, and then you stop building, and then you're stuck with a lot of extra expenses, a lot of extra roads, a lot of extra police needs, and so if you can keep building forever, that's great, but eventually you got to pay the piper, and we're going to get stuck with one big fat bill. So you have to balance the development with all the other things, including school taxes, which are a lot bigger than our local taxes, a lot. So when school taxes go up, that's a much bigger bite. I wanted to ask Josh, I'm glad you're here. When was the last time taxes were raised, and how was it done?
You mean township taxes?
Township taxes.
It was done 3 or 4 years ago. And how was it done?
I mean, where was the raise?
In the general mills. The fire and ambulance hasn't been touched in years. I think probably another 15 years.
So do you remember how much the general millage was raised, or what it was and how much it was raised to?
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was roughly 50% increase.
Okay.
And it also happened the year that the county raised county taxes by 10%. So because those taxes are both on one bill, people realized a big increase at one time and probably did not really notice exactly how much was township and how much was county.
Bill?
There was a tax increase on emergency services tax or something of that nature for the ambulance. They were getting about 25,000, and now they're getting like 50-something thousand dollars. But that was like 2012, 2013, right in that area. So that was an increase at that time.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no,
It's Bill McGovern.
Bill McGovern, maintenance is something that if you don't do, will cost you 2-3 times as much when you have to do it. So, just like the sewer plant, you know, you can't cut anything out of that. If anything, you would increase your maintenance. So, it keeps the cost down. You know, there should be a schedule on that sewer plant. Every manufacturer should be called up and say, what is your maintenance requirements for that particular flow? What is your maintenance requirements for these bearings? And that should be done religiously for that sewer plant in the next 5 years of Carroll's. That maintenance has to be done. That's just a suggestion.
There's another way you can look at that sewer plant too. I looked at, if you're saying that the sledge haul is what, about 100,000, 110,000? With that kind of money, you could buy yourself a tanker, and a tandem or a triaxle tanker. And if you have a CDL driver here that works down there, or in it, you can take a load out a day. It wouldn't take you long. You could own that truck. And you'd save a lot of money. You'd save that $110,000 every year.
But how much time would it take to take that haul? How many hours out of the day?
About an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Just goes the box down.
So that would be 2 hours out of the day for one of our, I don't know who.
That
That's if it's not backed up.
Yeah, that's not a backup, so that would cost us money because other work would not get done, we might have to hire them. So there is a cost to time.
Not as much as them home. Just like you said earlier, every little bit counts, doesn't it? Okay, we're gonna move on now. Solicitor.
All right, so there's two items there, the Melbourne Hill PSA agreement and Gentera PSA agreement. So these are each agreements that the respective developers have signed and presented to the township, so I'm going to request a motion to approve each of these agreements. The idea behind each of these is that as plans come through, the engineer, and to a lesser extent the solicitor, reviews and takes part in analyzing the plans. As opposed to the taxpayers having to foot that bill, the municipality's planning code puts that responsibility on the developer. And what the township is doing to be proactive is having these developers enter into professional services agreements and posting an amount in escrow. I think it's $10,000 for each of these. And to make sure that there's a pot of money, just in case the developer disappears, we have a pot of money to pay for engineering or legal review. So that's all these are, is agreements that recognize that escrow has been put in place. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the Melbourne Hill PSA and the Gentera PSA agreements.
So we do it separate, we do it together.
You can do it together.
We'll make a motion for the Melbourne Hills PSA agreement and the Geneva PSA agreement. For a second.
Second.
Are there any questions? Bob?
Did you say it's 10,000 on each end?
Yes.
So, Ragusa is 20,000. And as Sherry brought up earlier, and I talked to Mark before, they haven't been keeping up with their 20. They're still, for the last 6 months, they've been running a $2,600 where they're supposed to be at $20,000. And that's 39 homes. Melbourne Hills is 46, Gentera is 31. So 10,000 doesn't sound like it's enough.
With my agreements, that's off to the side. They have to pay as the bills come through. If, however, we dip into the escrow, once it hits that halfway point, then they have to replenish it. If they don't, we can stop.
And that's what Mr. Keenan had told us was going to happen with Metropolitan, and that hasn't happened. And I believe Mark said he read the professional service agreement, and it didn't state that either.
It's not written that way.
Thank you.
What does that mean, we need to revise the agreements?
No, I believe my agreements have that.
Yeah,
There's in there that they have to replenish.
So, okay.
Okay.
I mean, case station.
For these newer ones.
Vote. Aye.
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 Okay, and the last thing I have is, although Mark has been hired for half a year now, and we had the terms set forth, we did not have a manager's employment agreement. So I put those terms into an agreement that has been explained to the board, and so the board is ready to authorize the chairman to execute this agreement on behalf of the township.
Well, he's actually only been here 3 months, maybe it seems like 6.
Yes, up for it.
A motion to authorize.
Authorize the employment agreement with township manager Mark Webster.
I'll second.
Any questions? A vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And the last item, just to,
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
and the last item is to announce, as I must, executive session was held by the board prior to the meeting tonight to discuss personnel issues as well as potential litigation. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission. We had a meeting on October 17th. And at that meeting, we talked, the Melbourne Hills representatives came in, we spoke to them. The dialogue we heard tonight was kind of accurate, but not 100% accurate. What happened there was the developer had an appointment to go to zoning hearing on the 30th of October. Planning Commission, I had laid out a way to talk about that. Melbourne Hill basically suggesting to the Planning Commission that we make a motion about how we felt about that development going in zoning hearing. Another Planning Commission member suggested that he would like to talk about sewer alternatives, which seemed like a reasonable thing before we made any motion. So we had a very long discussion about sewer alternatives and the whole plan in general. We completed that discussion. We were about to make a motion whether or not, I was about to make a motion to see whether or not we supported that plan going to the zoning hearing. And then the lawyer came over to the developer. They huddled up for about a minute and then said, we're not going to go to zoning hearing. We'll let it go for a month. And then we decided at that point that we would not make a recommendation and allow them to come back and have whatever dialogue they were going to have with the township. That's where things got left. His description was pretty close, but not 100%, I thought, where we stand with that. We also looked at, we also passed a resolution, I guess, or had a letter for supporting the DCED grant that Carol mentioned. Over there behind the speaker. At the beginning of tonight's meeting. That's required actually for the grant application. They need the Planning Commission support for that. The second grant, we will do the approval at our November meetings. I don't think that letter was ready, as I remember, in time, so we'll do that for the camera work down the sewer. We also discussed the other subdivision on the open space for Arcadia Crossing, which was talked about, and we had to do the sewage planning waiver. And then we also spoke about the rental property. Tom Reynolds has indicated that he would be willing to entertain a subdivision of his property over here near Equipment on the other side of the firehouse. And the idea would be to possibly find a way to make a connection over to where the Perkiomen Trail is so that people could get through. And how that would happen. So we weren't exactly sure. Terry had brought up that there may be some issues with who owns what back there, and there was a lot of different discussions at that meeting, but where it got left was that Mark, our manager, was going to contact Mr. Reynolds to see whether it was okay to go on the property and try to get a better handle on the state of affairs.
I'm going to visit the property with him next week.
Okay.
And then figure out where we're going from there.
Okay. So that's sort of in the preliminary stage, but it would, offer an opportunity to possibly use that property, again, to safely get people over to the trail, which I think, keeping people off of Screen Mountain Road is probably a good thing that can happen. And the last thing we did is we worked on a landscaping ordinance for a few minutes. We have some more work to do, and hopefully we can get things done in November to get that finalized and then get that to the board. Any questions? Thanks.
Comprehensive plan.
Chris is not here. So we had a meeting, 17th, so that was like the 10th, I guess, of October, where we talked about infrastructure in the township. We talked a lot about sewers. We talked a lot about just overall, I guess it was traffic. It was sort of an introduction to that new focus area. I thought it was a good constructive discussion. This month, as I understand it, a week from this Thursday, we'll be meeting here at 6:30. And I believe, according to Crystal, we're going to go back and talk a little bit about the natural resources and that portion of it, and then we will start to take a deeper dive into the infrastructure conversation that we started last month. So the way this process works, because I know some people may have questions, we have a county planner. The county is helping facilitate this plan. Unless a member of this community feels like doing a lot of writing, the county will actually write the plan, and we will have the opportunity to review the plan, edit the plan however we see fit, and work with them until we get a final product. So after we finish a focus area, they draft up what has happened in those meetings, and usually it's about 2 or 3 meetings once a month, and then we have the opportunity to comment on that and change that. So it is our plan, but they're nice enough to do the writing part of it for us. And that's the way we've done that. That's the way we've done just about all of our plans in the past. So that's the process that we'll see a little bit of next month when they bring in the draft of what they have heard from the previous 3 meetings that were earlier this year.
Thank you. Any questions for that?
I have a question for Chuck. How much does it cost each time that we use the planning, planner? Because I know what we did as Parks Committee to use an outside source.
Right.
And we're in a deficit right now, and we're trying to pinch corners.
I don't know
Just
what
wondering-
we saw, what our contract would have to go back. Mark could probably look it up.
Yeah, we have a multi-year contract. I don't know the exact figures off the top of my head, but it's a couple thousand a year.
But either way, that costs us money, correct?
It costs us money, and I think it costs us a little bit more money to get their extra assistance on this comp plan issue. Bear in mind, there are a few of us like myself and Crystal who's doing a lot on their own without getting paid. So,
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Amy Sachs. I was wondering, 6 Little
Sorry,
Road.
Kate?
Amy Sachs, 6 Little Road. I was wondering if we could go, if this is finished with comprehensive plan, if I could go back and ask a question about
Sure.
the planning commission. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Have there been any updates with the Little Road project? Has that moved forward in any way? Or
The one near your home,
Yes.
we haven't heard anything. I guess that's really a question for the township.
Not heard anything from him. I've not heard anything from him.
Great, thank you.
Park and recreation.
We're at the end of our year, pretty much this year. We've done pretty much everything we've planned for this year. We had a successful and busy year this year, and our success at that has relied upon the support of a lot of people in this room. And on behalf of the Park Board, I'd like to thank the Sitting Board for their support this year. In particular, Terry, your very gracious support on all the construction work that helped us get the park done. We couldn't have done it without it. Chuck, you got us the Realtor grant for the $5,000, which helped us get to that, get the sign up and get the final planting done in the beds. And the weeding helped us for the centennial. Mark, you and Bonnie really supported the centennial wonderfully. I don't know if Bonnie's here tonight, but Bonnie's been terrific support all year in helping us upgrade our website information. This year we did mailings for donations for the centennial. We've learned from that. We're going to be going out and asking for donations for park projects. We're in the process of looking at the projects we're going to do for the coming year. We have a fairly aggressive plan coming forward on things we'd like to try to do if we can get the funding. So we're going to be asking for our industries and out to residents for help with us with funding.